In the heart of the Ecuadorian Amazon, in Yasuni National Park, indigenous groups are victims of a grave injustice. The Ecuadorian president has given the international community an ultimatum. Unless we pledge $3.6 billion to the Ecuadorian government, $100 million of which must be in by December of 2011, Yasuni National Park will be drilled for hydrocarbon resources. Why should the international community care about an Ecuadorian national park? Because Yasuni is the single most biodiverse rainforest on Earth and home to approximately 44% of Amazonian bird species. 1 hectare in the park contains over 650 species of trees, more than all of North America. The estimated oil reserves beneath Yasuni contain approximately 846 million barrels of crude worth approximately $7 billion, which is very enticing from an economic perspective. Tapping these reserves, however, would result in large-scale logging projects, pipeline construction, accidental spills, and approximately 407 million tons in CO2 emissions, so it is clear why conservationists oppose drilling. Unfortunately, the international community will not have to face the consequences if they fail to raise the money. Communities most affected by toxic exposure to crude oil and land degradation due to deforestation, pipeline construction, and potential oil spills are those subsisting within the park. Indigenous groups ought to be one of the primary contributors to the decision-making process surrounding oil exploration in Yasuni. It is, after all, their health and livelihood on the line. Allowing the international community to decide whether to develop or preserve Yasuni National Park ignores the basic human right to subsistence for the people who depend upon this land and its resources for survival. Hydrocarbon exploitation involves large-scale environmental degradation that will decrease agricultural productivity of the land. The president's ultimatum seems like a compromise between the needs of both urban and indigenous Ecuadorians, as it protects the indigenous homelands while producing revenue to support urban populations. It is important to note, however, that the urban population will see revenue from the oil field regardless of the final outcome. Indigenous groups are the ones who are at risk of losing everything if the president's plan goes awry. Allowing the international community to decide the fate of Yasuni National Park places the power to determine the fate of indigenous Ecuadorians in foreign hands. Since the indigenous groups subsist off the land, they lack the monetary capacity to support their own cause. They must sit and wait for the world to decide whether their livelihoods are worth more than 846 million barrels of crude oil.